The president rejects the airstrike and chooses to send a team of commandos via helicopter. The unit chosen by the Joint Special Operations Command to conduct the assault is SEAL Team 6, often considered the best of the best.
The assault squadron that was chosen to go was Red Squadron at SEAL Team 6. They showed up and they realized that, hey, they weren't there for an exercise, they were there to go after bin Laden. And then we began training immediately. The plan was the 2 helicopters coming in. The one that was hovering between the main building and the kind of ancillary building where one of the couriers was living. That group of 12 guys, half went to the bottom floor of the main compound, and the other half went to deal with that courier. The second bird came in, fast roped onto the roof, and those guys were to make their way down where bin Laden was, and they would sandwich him, if you will.
After 3 weeks of training, Admiral McRaven confirms to the president and the CIA director that the squadron assault team is mission ready. The SEALs are cleared to deploy to the U.S. military base in Jalalabad, Afghanistan. In Washington, D.C., it's time to make the final decision.
Pursuant to our Constitution, the President of the United States at that time, Barack Obama, was the Commander-in-Chief. So it was his decision on whether or not we were going to go forward with the raid to hopefully bring to justice the person who was behind the attack at 9/11. It's huge because you don't want a world war. You deal with other countries. It could impact your allies.
We had to send U.S. forces across a nation-state border into their country, armed, to try to effectuate an arrest of an internationally known terrorist. After the 5 months of reviewing the information, there really weren't any more Republican and Democrat ideas about this. I'm a Republican, the president was a Democrat, to me it didn't matter. We understood the weight of this decision. My best role was, if something goes wrong, I will stand next to the president and say that I thought this was the right decision.
Almost 10 years after the 9/11 attack, only a few people in Washington know that the hunt for Osama bin Laden might end in the next few hours. Barack Obama has made his crucial decision.
In the morning, Tom Donilon, the National Security Advisor, called Leon Panetta and said, the president has approved the mission, it's a go. All the details are in Admiral McRaven's hands.
I got a phone call from Panetta, and he said, you know that thing we've been working on? What's going to happen this weekend? Goodbye. That was it. I'll never forget the phone call again.
The night has fallen on the U.S. military base in Jalalabad. The SEALs are ready to launch this very special mission, probably one of the most important since World War II.
The mission was a kill mission. We were not supposed to capture bin Laden. It was the order from Bill McRaven, but it was also signed off by the President of the United States. At that level, the President's got to agree to it. Every other mission we do is kill or capture, and this time we're going to tell him, well, it's essentially an assassination. But it came down to, do we want to take him back, have him stand trial, and expose possibly the sources and means that were used to find him? And that wasn't worth it, and I totally agree with that.
President Obama and his National Security Council gather in the White House Situation Room. The CIA team monitors the operation in Langley.
We had a direct connection with Bill McRaven, and he was giving us a blow-by-blow of what was happening.
The helicopters from the 160th Special Operations Regiment, known as the Night Stalkers, leave Jalalabad Air Base at 10 p.m. local time. 2 modified Blackhawks with a very low radar signature will carry the SEAL team, while 2 larger Chinooks will serve as quick reaction force in case the SEALs need backup.
The helicopters flew to a ground logger site where they dropped the quick reaction force. And from that point, the helicopters made that southern leg into the target. And it was about 2 minutes out when they came out of the mountains, and at that point could be seen by Pakistani radar.
A few minutes before the helicopters reach the target, the CIA intercepts a signal. In the compound, a cell phone the CIA had not identified before is activated.
We heard the communications coming off them. And the last communication was one brother calling another brother, and he said, "They've come from above." And those were effectively his last words that were recorded.
They were now going to be awake, so it was more likely to be a gunfight than anything else. That was my concern. The other concern as well was if a call was going on to wake up bin Laden, the Pakistani military knew that something was going on in their own backyard there. The timer is on, and from the time that call came, we figured the guys had 30 minutes until the Pakistanis would mount a response.
The 2 helicopters reached the target at midnight.
We were able to follow those helicopters into Pakistan, and we had surveillance over the compound itself when the helicopters arrived. We actually saw the helicopter kind of wobble.
So as we're watching those birds come in over the compound, for me in slow motion, the one that was between those 2 houses is supposed to stop. You know, when you fast rope, the helicopter stops. Out go the ropes, guys slide down the rope. It never stopped. There were walls, and it did not allow the air to disperse. It drove that dirty air, as helicopter pilots call it, back up into the rotors, and it lost power. And when it loses power, it's just sliding off the target and then turns slowly clockwise, and then you see it set down there in the animal pen.
And I remember at that very moment, you have that sense, what's happening? There was a shock in everybody's face. It's that moment when you're thinking, for all the planning, for all the work, for all of the things we tried to do to make sure this went right, something wrong was happening. Is it going to destroy the mission?
The pilot avoids a crash, landing the helicopter in the animal pen near the main house. The Black Hawk is destroyed, but everyone is safe.
I asked McCraven, who I was in radio contact with, "What the hell's going on, Bill?" And he didn't miss a beat. He said, "There's no problem. We're going to continue with the mission. I've got backup helicopters coming in. They're going to breach through the walls, and they're going to go in and complete the mission." And I said, "God bless you. Let's go."
There was no time to be concerned because the helicopter lands, the guys are out of there instantly.
When the helicopter went down hard, the neighborhood woke up. So people were turning on their lights, people were coming out, wondering what's going on here. So it was a race against time at that point.
The second helicopter basically sees his buddy have issues and said, uh-oh, and went immediately to his alternate landing site, which was outside the compound. And the guys jumped out of the helicopter and ran to the door that they were going to use as an alternate entry point, then recognized that that door had been blocked up from the inside. So you had the team outside and the team inside. The team inside still had to come over the wall that separated the animal pen from the houses, so they came over that wall. The team outside couldn't get in, so the senior operator on the ground said, "Hey, I got you." Walked right up to those double doors, opened the doors from the inside, and the guys came flooding in, and then everybody, of course, had to go through the ground floor door and make their way to the top. The one team that went to the courier that was living in the outside house got into a gunfight instantly.
Contact.
Al-Kuwaiti is down.
Guest house secured. 110 kilo.
The team enters the main house from the ground floor.
On the first floor, the second courier was there. When the operator entered, up came his gun, his wife jumps in front of him, and the wife took the first round, and the courier took the second round. That is not the way we like to do business, but we recognize that those things happen.
We're able to hear what's going on. We hear gunfire. They're breaching through the walls and going through the walls, so we know something's going on. It's obvious they've run into opposition.
The guys that had to breach the doors, they would drop off to cover dead spaces, places that you can't see behind where somebody might be hiding.
A heavy metal door blocks the stairwell between the ground floor and the second floor, impeding access to the upper floors.
Khalid. Bin Laden's son came down the steps. They shot him there.
The SEALs can now secure the second floor. In the bedrooms, they find children and two women who they search and detain. The SEALs approach the third floor, where Osama bin Laden should be hiding.
Bin Laden came out onto a landing. They took a shot at him, which hit him in the side. They made their way up the steps. The first guy into the room did not engage bin Laden. The second guy enters the room, and bin Laden is just standing there. There is an AK-47 close to him, but he has no intention of reaching for it. And he took the shot from just a few feet away.
Compound secured. Geronimo.
The people at CIA headquarters in Langley hear on the radio feed the SEALs declaring
Geronimo.
the code word to indicate that bin Laden has been killed.
And then McCraven says, "I think we have a Geronimo." And I'm not sure what's going on then. It's about 15 minutes, the longest in my lifetime. And I was waiting and basically saying, do we or don't we have Geronimo? And then McCraven came back and said, we have a Geronimo. We had bin Laden.
Target acquired. Osama bin Laden is dead.